to Books to Huda. I'm Sandy, and today I'm going to be prematurely filming my top 10 books of 2015 because when I'm at my parents, I'm obviously not going to lug all of these with me, and I would like to have this filmed so I can throw it up at the end of the year. Or I can upload it at the end of the year. Cue the book finding montage! Camera. Here is the list of books I read in 2015. If you want to try reading my handwriting.
Some of these books, it feels like I read them so much longer ago than this year, just because my life, like, as soon as grad school ended, like, that feels so long ago, but it really has not been, which is kind of ridiculous.
This is no surprise to anyone. Without further ado, I think I'll try to do this in chronological order. And remember, these are not necessarily... I mean, most of these I think have great literary merit, but these are also the books I enjoyed the most out of the year too. So while I am a literary scholar, these are not necessarily the most scholarly books that I read this year. So I've conveniently written these in reverse order. That's helpful. So in June, I had 2 out of my top 10 favorites. One of them I own and one of them I still do not because... sigh. I'm hoping I can buy it with a gift card or something because and if I don't get a gift card, then I will buy it before the sequel comes out. But the first one is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I love that book. I think that might be my favorite book of the year. The second book of the top 10, which I read in that time, is Wolf in White Van by John Darnielle. This was recommended to me by my friend Heather. Next, in July, you guys know what's coming. Maybe this should have been last, I don't know, but in July I finished Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Gabaldon. I've heard it pronounced so many different ways. When I was in Barnes & Noble for the Outlander event they announced it over the system and they said Galbadon, and this guy in the next aisle, like, he didn't even come to the event, but he's like, who would say it like that? And I just wanted to start cracking up. So Diana Gabaldon. Go watch my Outlander video if you want. In August, my top 10 book, which I don't physically own, but I do own on Kindle. This is actually my favorite one in the series. If you will know that if you've watched my Queen of Shadows review. Here is Sarah J. Maas's Heir of Fire. I highly recommend getting into this series if you have not already. Although book 1 takes a while to get going, I didn't really like it until the end. Book 2 and 3 and 4 are phenomenal reads. In September, I read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone and Harry Potter and The Chamber of Secrets. Like, what's this? Harry Potter 2, what's the second book? Which, of course, those don't really go on the list because they're just fantastic and, you know, Harry Potter, everything else. In October I read 2 of my top 10 of the year. One of them is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. If you haven't read this, I recommend it because it's fantastic. I had not read it since I was very young, and reading it again was really fun. I loved making notes in this copy, and I plan to keep this copy for the rest of my life and maybe reread it if I have children to them. You know, The Hobbit or There and Back Again. And then we get to what is probably, see, I've said this like 4 times, like my favorite book of the year, but no. So it's hard to choose because I read 3 really wonderful new books this year, like books that I had not read before and books that, you know, they're in my top books of all time. This is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I have never done what I did with this book before. I read it all the way through once and then I turned back to the first page and read it all the way through a second time. I'm not sure. I didn't enjoy it nearly as much the second time through, but also, I mean, because I knew it was coming, but also it was great to go through because Rainbow Rowell throws in a bunch of things, like reading it again, you find so many things that you just kind of read past the first time because you don't know what's coming yet. So I think she kind of expected people to read it more than once, and it is worth reading more than once. And I already want to read it again because I followed a bunch of carry-on blogs on Tumblr, and snowflakes, anyone? Well, here's the tabs for that. I think the blue ones are Baz and the red ones are Simon. I don't remember, but I love this book. Chapter 61, guys. 61. Chapter 61. Read it. It's amazing. After that, then I had to get through, like I had to read something else, and I was like, what can live up to Carry On? Nothing. And this is also November, so I was writing NaNoWriMo at the time. So I read something that was totally different, but it was the kind of writing style I hoped to emulate, and that is oh geez, so there's like another one. Vicious by V.E. Schwab, which is getting a sequel, yes! I loved it. I read it in probably, let's see, I've started writing the dates of when I start and finish books in the front of my books, because I wish I had done that since the beginning of time. Maybe I didn't want to mar up this beautiful, beautiful copy. I read it in November, so I can't recommend this book enough. It's set in the real world, it's gritty, it's gruesome, it's wonderful, it's magical a little bit, and the writing is freaking amazing. She's also hilarious on Tumblr, or not Tumblr, Twitter. If you haven't read anything by Victoria Schwab, go do it now. Oh, I also read the prequel on Kindle, which is called Warm Up. It's about 15 pages. It's also really good. Recommend. I read it before reading this, and it works really well that way. I think also reading it after would be fine. But before, kind of, it is a quote, it's a warm-up. Books 8 and 9 I also read in November. First of all is Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird, Some Instructions on Writing and Life. I have been reading this book probably since about 2008 when my mom gave it to me. This book is fantastic for writing of all sorts. The first part of it can be used towards academic writing. The second half is mostly for fiction writing, creative writing of any kind. It's on the floor. She is very funny, she's badass, she's so honest. She and I we have similar anxiety things, like where we want to be a perfectionist about everything, and she says, just write it, just sit down, just start doing it. Whatever it is, you know, even if, have you heard of shitty first drafts? I teach it to my students. Shitty first drafts has changed the way I write forever, because writing something is better than, you know, even if it's crap, is better than sitting there thinking everything I write is terrible and then never writing anything. So I recommend this. In a similar vein, but it is a different type of book, I put this in my top 10 because I enjoyed it quite a bit. I found it quite helpful, and I think it's the best NaNoWriMo start off point that I could possibly have chosen. I started reading it, I think Halloween. Yeah, 10/31/15 to 12/8/15. This book, I really like Elizabeth Gilbert's writing. I don't always agree with what she has to say, but her style is very conversational and it's funny. It's different from Anne Lamott, but like Anne Lamott, I pretty much agree with everything she says, but Elizabeth Gilbert, sometimes she's a little bit too zen for me. But as a kind of boost for just writing and believing that you are worthy of creating things, which I really need help with, despite the fact that I make YouTube videos and just sit here talking, it says you have the authority to do that if you want. You are allowed to enjoy making things even if it's not Michelangelo's ceiling or, you know, what's something else that's really great? Outlander, you know? So I really, really highly recommend this book too if you want to write something or just create something at all. And the 10th slot, because I am leaving blank because I feel like I'm still going to read a great book before the end of the year. The last book may be still coming, and so I'm gonna leave this blank and insert the 10th clip now. So thank you for watching. Those are my top 10 books of 2015. I would love to know what your favorite books are of the year. Thank you for watching. I am Sandy. This has been Books to Huda. Happy 2015 and 2016 to come. I'm sure there will be many more books and more videos and many more Tahudas. So, Books to Huda! This is already 2 minutes long. Good grief. I only have 7 so far. Shit. Gotta fix that. We can't have a video without festive lights. Actually, probably what is one, you know, the books that I,
Sing me a song of a lance that is gone, say could that less be I?